Hey guys, thanks for joining us. This time we're taking a look at a very cool dice crafting game from Libellud Studios called Dice Forge. This one's for 2 to 4 players, so let's get down to the table and start forging some faces and collecting some shards. Hey everybody, welcome to Board Together Games. My name is David.
My name's Jake.
I'm Ryan.
Our channel, if you're new here, is dedicated to bringing you quality board game content for people who are new to the hobby and also for families with kids. Today we're looking at Dice Forge. This is a very neat little resource management dice rolling game where it has kind of a kitschy little hook here. These dice have faces that are removable. We will talk about those and show you how that works here in just a minute. This game is, well, it's for 2 to 4 players. It is designed by some dudes that are French, and I cannot pronounce their names. I'm not even going to try, but I'll have it on the screen for you to check out for yourselves. And it is from a company called Libellud. Libellud, it's French also. They are known for really great quality productions, and this is no exception. Right, guys?
Yep.
Yes.
Phenomenal looking game, excellent components. So let's talk a little bit now about how to set this thing up. To set up for Dice Forge, first thing you do is you lay out this modular board here. It's modular in the fact that there are a number of different cards that can be placed out in this, they call it the islands board. And what I have out here now is for the introductory game. Those cards are clearly marked, and they basically go around the board like this. There are other cards in the box when you have learned how to play the game a little bit. They have some more advanced abilities and things like that, which is very cool. So some of the cards here in the introductory game and in the advanced variant of the game have different types of things and abilities that they give you. Some of them are straight victory points. You take the card and they give you victory points. Some of them have ongoing abilities that you can use once per turn. Some of them have immediate effects that take place immediately. They either give you resources or they do something to some of your opponents. There's some mean stuff in here. So a lot of different things that you can do, which is also really cool for replayability. And you bring out this lovely little place mat here, which has all of the interchangeable die faces that you can purchase throughout the game. You give each player a player board and these 5 resource marker, they track your resources, basically, how many you have. Everything runs up in a little grid here with quantities of the different resources that you can get throughout the course of the game. And you give everybody 2 dice, 1 light die and 1 dark die. The starting die faces are really interesting. You have to set these up before you can play your first game. And one of the dice, the dark die, has 1 face that is a single moon shard, 1 face that has 2 victory points, and the other 4 are just a single gold. The light die has 1 face on it that is a single sun shard, and the other 5 faces are just single gold. So you set out the round tracker on round 1 of the game board right here. You give each player their player pawn and place them on the appropriate space on the board. So the rule book says once you've set everything up, you choose the start player by picking the youngest player. We don't do that in our house because the youngest player does not always denote the weakest player. So we choose a start player randomly, and once you do that, the first player is going to receive 3 gold to start the game with. The second player gets 2 gold, and then on around until, if you have a maximum of 4 players, that 4th player unfortunately gets nothing, and then the game can begin. So gameplay for Dice Forge is very simple. Every player on their turn is going to roll their dice. The interesting part about it is you're not just going to roll the dice on your turn. You're going to roll these dice on every player's turn. So starting with the first player, everyone is going to roll their dice. And then you're going to accumulate resources based on what you have rolled. Ryan and Jake and any other player that is also playing would do the same thing and gather those resources. If I'm the active player, I then have 2 choices. Right, Ryan?
Yes.
What are those 2 things that I can do on my turn?
Your first choice is to move around to, I don't know what these are called.
Yeah, on one of the islands. This is the islands board, yeah.
And spin that number of sun and or moon shards to collect that card.
Collect the card. Correct. And as we said before, those cards give you different things. Victory points, abilities, immediate resources, stuff like that. Yeah. So what's the second thing that you can do on your turn with gold?
You can buy other die faces.
Yes, you can purchase die faces, and these die faces they have different costs associated with them, and the rule there is that you can only ever take 1 die face of any given type. So in other words, I can't buy 2 single sun shard die faces and put them on my dice in a single turn. I can do that in 2 subsequent turns, and I can spend as much gold as I have to buy any die faces that I want with that one caveat. So that's how a turn works. Everybody rolls their dice, and the active player takes one of those 2 actions. They also have the option, if you're the active player, if you have 2 sun shards to spend, you can spend 2 sun shards to take a second action. That doesn't mean you get to roll your dice again. It just means you can do another action, which is either purchasing new die faces or traveling around the island's board to spend the sun and moon shards to collect a card. So when you take these die faces and you put them on your dice, basically what you're going to do is you're going to grab whichever one that you've spent the gold for. You will spend that gold out of your supply. And you'll take this die face and decide which face you want to replace. Typically, you're going to replace at the beginning of the game, and for most of the game, the single gold spaces. So what you'll do is you'll take the die face that you purchased, you'll plant it in the corner here, this little slot, and you'll pry that off, and then you'll put this new die face where that one came from, and then you're done. So I'll show you that again. Let's say I bought this 4 gold die face. I want to put it on this die right here. I would put the corner in here, pry this off, and then replace it with this one right here. And that's how that works. That's how you purchase and replace the die faces on your light and dark die. The other rule of replacing your die faces is that once you have placed a die face in a spot on one of your die, it cannot move unless you are replacing it again. So if I decide to put a moon shard right here on this space, it's going to stay there for the rest of the game unless I replace it with something else. I can't just move them around, interchange them however I want. So let's try that again. How does this work again? You put this in here and you pry it.
Oh, jeez.
So when you're traveling around the island's board purchasing these cards with sun and moon shards, there is a possibility that you could displace another player's pawn. So if the orange player had gone to this location on a previous turn, and I want to go there now to purchase a card, I would move my pawn to that location, and this other pawn gets kicked out, this player gets kicked out and moved back to this center space here where the round tracker is. If that happens, the orange player now gets a free die roll of both of his dice, the light and dark die, and he gets to gather resources for that. So that's an interesting thing that could happen, and you're going to want to try to avoid it, but it does happen from time to time, and you can't avoid it because it's going to be a really powerful move for you. You just, unfortunately, give them some resources along the way. So once a turn is finished and everybody has rolled their dice, the active player has done an action or 2 if they want to spend a couple of sun shards to take a second action, play just passes around the table, and anytime it gets back to the first player that was chosen at the beginning, you move this round tracker up 1 space. You're going to play this game in either 9 or 10 rounds, depending on how many players you have. And that's it. When you've reached the last round of the game and it's finished, all players count up their points off of their cards and what they have on their player board here on the tracker. And whoever has the most points is the winner. And that's how you play Dice Forge. Ryan, you know how this works, right? You just put this in here and you pry that out like that. Okay, Jacob, what did you think of this game?
I really liked the artwork and the overall gameplay of this game.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can change the faces of the dice.
Yeah.
And it gives you more modular things to do in the game.
It is very cool. It's a very unique thing. It's not the first game that has introduced being able to change the die faces, but it's definitely the best one in my opinion so far. Yeah, because I like resource gathering games too, and resource management. I like that kind of stuff. And this game does that really well, I think. Ryan, what about you?
I really love the insert.
Yeah, the insert is fantastic. Again, Libellud, the production company, always does an amazing job. There's a spot in this insert for everything. Everything fits in there perfectly nice. Once the box is closed, you can turn the thing upside down, throw it across the room, and things pretty much stay where they are. Yeah, it's very cool.
And I also love the special abilities on these cards.
Yeah, the different abilities, it's a lot of really good variety here. There's a couple of mean cards, and we don't use those very often. We don't typically like to play that way, but they are in the game, and we do use them from time to time just because it's fun. But yeah, there's ones that are straight points. There's ones that give you special die faces, like this one that every time you roll it gives you 3 times whatever thing you rolled on the other die, which is pretty cool. Just all kinds of different things on here. So great variety, great replayability. It's a lot of fun, too, messing with these dice. Jake, is this something like that? Another thing I noticed is this game is super quick.
Yeah.
I mean, this game, it's 40 minutes is what the box says. And that's pretty accurate, but it doesn't feel like a 40-minute game. It feels like about a 20-minute game when you're playing. The rounds go super fast. And in fact, I would have liked to have seen them, and maybe they will in the future, add another player capability. Maybe 5 or even 6. 6 might be pushing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a 5th player would be really good.
Yeah. I was gonna say that 6 players would be, there would be too much going on if there were 6 players.
I don't know that it would be too much going on, but it would just be more. The nice part about it...
What the heck, man?
The nice part about it is that every player is engaged on every turn.
Yeah.
You're always rolling your dice, regardless of whose turn it is, and you're able to get resources out of that. So you're watching your supply of stuff build up. So when it comes back around to your turn, you're like, oh, okay, I know what I'm going to do now. I know what I'm going to get. I'm going to buy this, or I'm going to get this card over here. So it just keeps you engaged, and I like that about this game as well. So how does this work again?
That's how you do it.
So Jacob, is there anything you do not like about Dice Forge?
It's more of a dislike / fun mechanism of this game that you can flick die faces all over the floor.
Yeah. You don't like that?
It could be better.
But, yeah, I got you. You like it, but it can be kind of, after a while, it gets...
pretty boring, picking up things off the floor every 5 minutes.
It's a good point. It's a good point. Yeah, you're supposed to hold your thumb over the die face you're replacing before you pry it off with the other die face.
I forget that.
But it's easy to forget to do that. And yes, that's why we're wearing safety goggles. Ryan, is there anything you do not like about this game?
I don't like the theme.
Yeah, and honestly, that's my big beef with this game as well. This is very common in games today, so I don't fault just this game or this company or these designers, but a lot of the descriptions and theme built around this game, which is really not much of a theme anyway, it's really pasted on, but it talks about making offerings to the gods and worshiping the gods and things like that we as a family, we just don't subscribe to. I know it's just a game, but honestly, I don't even like pretending that that's what we're doing in the game. That's why you've heard all throughout this video us use very generic terms about how the mechanics work and things like that, as opposed to talking about how they're actually described and listed in the rulebook, is because we are believers and we are not ashamed of that, and it's just not something that I choose to talk about or describe in my gameplay. We still love the game, though. It's still a really good game, but I had to throw that out there because it is something that is an issue for me. Ratings are something that we always ask you to take with a grain of salt. This is obviously just our opinions, and we put them out there just as kind of an entertainment thing. Having said that, I'm going to give Dice Forge a 7.5 out of 10, and it really comes down to the big beef that I have with this game, which is the theme. If it were not for the theme, this game would be rated a lot higher for me. So there you go. 7.5 out of 10 for me. Ryan?
9.5 for me.
9.5. So that theme issue is just only takes off a half a point for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is a good game. Little fiddly with the dice. Yeah, but super good. Jacob?
Mine's going to be a 9, and that's because it's I ignore the fact that the theming is what it is.
Sure.
I have no anger, offense to anybody who made this game or was a part of it.
You seem super angry.
I'm very angry. But the other one scoring point, whatever you want to call it, is taken away because of flinging die faces all around the room.
Yeah. We haven't lost any yet, but I could definitely see where that could become an issue. Still, though, good scores. And for family friendliness, I'm also going to put this at a 7.5. And really, again, it's because of the theme. Coming from our worldview, my viewpoint is that's kind of an issue. And yeah, and also with littler kids, being able to interchange these die faces can not just be difficult, but, cumbersome, and they may not really understand exactly what the best strategy might be for that, for the smaller kids. But honestly, as a whole, this game is very good and would work really well in most family situations. As long as it's me, I'm ignoring the theme. But there you go. 7.5 out of 10 for family friendliness. So that wraps it up, everybody, for Dice Forge. A good game that we recommend very much. It's very unique, has some interesting things going on. Excellent production. So we highly recommend that you go pick this one up for yourself if you liked what you saw and heard today. Speaking of which, I will leave a link in the description below for somewhere where you can do exactly that. I'm also going to leave links in the description for places that you can contact us, like
Facebook
and
Twitter
and our website. So go check out those links as well. I will also leave a link in the description for our good friends over at Gamer Threads who have made some excellent shirts, including this one, my Pandemic Legacy I Live in a Faded City t-shirt, which I love, and a bunch of other ones like the Seriously I'm a Villager shirt.
and I don't have one.
You don't have one on right now. Shame on you.
I have shame.
So that is one great way that you can help us out and support us here at Board Together Games, is to go check out Gamer Threads for yourself. So remember, everybody, if you're bored together,
Board together.
thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.
Oh man.
Was that a purposeful blooper?
Yes.
Okay.
Give it a 1 star on TripAdvisor.
Unfinished TripAdvisor.
Antithesis.
Oh,
Fifth.
You gotta spit a little bit when you
I did. It's all a little on cards.